everyone! It's Danielle,
And Tricia.
and we are back with another reading wrap up for the month of June.
Woo!
So, if you checked out our TBR video for June, you'll see maybe some books that were on that TBR, maybe some books that weren't on that TBR. We might have the physical copy, we might not have the physical copy. Some might be library books, some might be audiobooks, some might be digital books, some might be physical books. Who knows? But we are going to do this where I'm going to tell you all of the books that I read, and then Tricia will share all of the books that she read for the month of June. So let's get into it. So the first book that I read this month that we're going to talk about is our book club book. So this is Ever After by F.T. Lukens. We filmed a video with Ashley that does a full deep dive into this book, our thoughts, our ideas, our understandings, our reviews, all that stuff. So this was throughout the whole month. I ended up giving this book a 3.7 star. This book is about a group of friends who have just defeated an evil wizard and what life looks like after that. They are in this castle, and our main character, Eric, has to try and find his true love, or that he wants to be bonded with, I believe is what they call the Trish.
Yeah.
Bonded with, before his 18th birthday. Otherwise, he gonna disappear. I really enjoyed this book. I did not like the use of common language in it. But I won't say anything else other than that, just because there is a whole video dedicated to our thoughts on this book. All right. The next book I read, I do not have the physical copy of because it was a library book and I had to return it. And this book also is part of a video that is up right now on our YouTube channel called Partner Picks Our Next Read. I read Beyond a Reasonable Stout by Ellie Alexander. I ended up giving it a 4.5 star. I actually had started this book in May and actually finished it on June 1st. So I read it from the 18th of May to the 1st of June. A little bit of a longer read. I was sick in there. Unfortunately, my body's decided to remain sick from the middle of May until now. Don't ask me why. But it's okay. This book is set in a town. It follows our main character, whose name I'm blanking on. Hold on. So this book follows our main character, Sloane. She works at a brewery, and her partner are trying to reconstruct the brewery, add new ideas to it. But she gets roped in to helping to solve the murder of a local mayoral candidate. This mayoral candidate wanted to institute prohibition, essentially, into this town whose entire identity is based off of German culture and Oktoberfest. So this town with a tourist attraction that feeds off of the sale of alcohol did not like the idea of prohibition being instituted, and so a lot of different people had motives to kill this man. I found this book really interesting. I loved that it kind of kept me guessing, it kept me on my toes. Very easy read, very simple plot. But I actually didn't end up correctly guessing who murdered him, which was really interesting. They kind of gave away little details as it went. So the writing was super interesting to read. And I learned a lot about beer. I don't drink beer. I'm not a beer fan. So I really enjoyed learning a lot about it. And I ended up giving it a 4.5 star.
Woo!
The next, yeah, woot, woot, woot. 4.5, starting off strong. The next book is A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking. This book follows 14-year-old Mona, who is a wizard, and her familiar is actually sourdough starter. And like I said in our TBR video, if you know anything about the world of Fae, a familiar is usually an animal creature that helps the main character along with their journey. Essentially, she is able to manipulate bread into different objects. So she makes little gingerbread men out of them, and then they do like little dances, usually
Oh.
like a samba or a cha-cha. Yeah, it was really, really cute. But she ends up getting roped in to solving the murders of magical people in her realm. There's somebody that is assassinating them. Turns out, a little bit of a spoiler, it's someone pretty close to the queen. I won't say more than that, but I will say it was a fantastic read. Once you thought the plot was done and over with, it wasn't. It just kept going. There is a character death that I cried at because it was a sacrifice, and you got to know this character throughout the book. It's not a super main character, but she literally had gone through torture at the hands of the kingdom and then sacrificed her life to save this kingdom. Yeah. I ended up reading this from June 1st to June 6th, and I ended up giving it a 5 star. Oh, and it's by T. Kingfisher. I forgot to say the author.
Ooh.
Yeah. Our next book is Murder by Memory by Olivia Waite. All these books, Trisha will superimpose the cover as she
Right
does.
over my face.
Yeah, right over Trisha's face. So, Murder by Memory by Olivia Waite follows um Dorothy Dorothy, Dorothy, who is on this ship in space that is flying to a new planet. So it is a sci-fi book. It is very short. It is less than 100 pages. So it was a super fast read. I literally read it in 4 hours, I believe was my time count. And I really, really liked it. It basically is she wakes up in a different body of the presumed killer, and she has to figure out who murdered this other person. And it took so many twists and turns. The only complaint that I really had was that it was so short. I loved all of the parts that talked about the ship and the sci-fi of it, and like the science behind how the ship worked was really, really interesting. But because it was so short, I felt like the plot was very rushed. I would have really liked more, like more of that plot, like drag it out a little bit more. I think it could have been easily like a 200-page book. That would have been really interesting. I read it from June 6th to June 6th, and I rated it a 4.25.
Starting off this month strong.
Oh yeah, it doesn't say like that. The next book I read is my beloved Broken Kingdom series by L.J. Andrews that I have talked about in a couple videos now. I have finished book 6 of 9. I do plan to finish the rest of the series in the summertime now that I'm going on summer break. And this book was finishing off the second part of the series, where we are following Malin and Case as they are trying to regain their kingdom. I really liked this book. These are quite like thick books. And this took me from May 11th to June 8th to read. So, really a long time. Again, I was sick in a lot of that timing. I did not love this portion of the series as much as I loved the first three. I love the idea of Malin and Case, but I felt like there was a lot of filler in this part of the series. I felt like a lot dragged on that didn't need to. So I gave it a 4.25, so still pretty good.
So pretty good.
But I gave all of the first three, I think I gave them 4.75 or 5. So a little bit less of that one. I didn't like it as much. All right, my next few books I actually have physical. So I have a duology that I read. I read Daughter of the Pirate King, and Daughter of the Siren Queen. It's Sprayed Edges.
Ooh.
These books, I had bought Daughter of the Pirate King, actually in a different copy. It's over there. It's like right up there somewhere. Um, a book outlet for a book outlet shop, so you can see me unbox it in that video. I don't know if that's come out yet.
It has
No.
not.
So take a look for that. Make sure you take a look out for that video. I absolutely ate up this book. I read it from June 9th to June 10th.
Ooh.
And that was during the week. So like I was pretty proud of myself for that one. So, Daughter of the Pirate King follows Alasa. Um, I want to confirm the name. Alasa. Oh, good. Woo. Daughter of the Pirate King follows Alasa, who is the daughter of the Pirate King and runs her own ship that is a full crew of women. It is essentially
Ooh.
the female version of Pirates of the Caribbean.
I love that.
Right? She is on the hunt for three pieces of a treasure map to get her to the Siren's hidden island. And so she lets herself to be captured aboard this other pirate ship, this rival pirate ship. They don't follow her father. So her father rules the seas, but they don't follow him. They are like protesting against him or like mutinizing against him. And basically, it's about her journey of finding that. Obviously, the second book gives away that she is the daughter of the Siren Queen, but I am not going to say anything more than that because it is a huge spoiler. There's a lot revealed throughout this book, and I'm not going to say anything because I know Tricia has already purchased them
I
and is
have.
planning to read them soon.
Absolutely.
So I don't want to say anything more, but I ended up giving Daughter of the Pirate King 4.75 and Daughter of the Siren Queen 5 star.
Oh, heck yeah.
They were absolutely good. Daughter of the Siren Queen, I read from June 13th to June 14th. So
Good.
absolutely ate them up. The sprayed edges, you can get this edition on Amazon, which is awesome. I think it's an Amazon exclusive. Don't quote me on that though. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's like the little pirates. I love it.
They're adorable.
Very cool. The next book I read as a buddy read with Ashley. I read this book. So I read it and listened to the audiobook. I started reading it and then discovered through Tricia that the audiobook is narrated by the author. And it's I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy. I am not going to talk about this book because we have a whole video dedicated and I got super emotional in that video and I don't want to cry again. Um, but 5 star. Absolutely recommend. June 16th to June 18th is when I devoured this book. And the only reason I didn't read it in a full day is because I had to work. Um, it's amazing. Go and read it. Do it now. Pause the video, come back, tell me your thoughts. So Tricia's read it
Yeah,
and not this month. So what did you give it? 5 star?
I give it 5 star. Oh
I
yeah.
absolutely love it. I love it.
Oh yeah.
I love it. I'm so glad that I bought it because that's nonfiction, and I am not a fan of nonfiction. I have said that many times on this channel, but I loved it. All right, my next book I read on my Kindle. I read from June 12th to June 21st. And it is Fish in a Tree by Lynda Mullaly Hunt. This book is for another video that will be coming out. It's swapping our 5 star reads. Ashley gave me this book to read. I wanted to love it.
Mm.
However, I ended up giving it a 3 star, and that was being nice. You will hear my full thoughts, but essentially it follows a girl that is going through the process of getting diagnosed with dyslexia. I think there are so many other amazing books that are written about children and going through school with a disability that I don't think her struggles with dyslexia were enough to keep me hooked. I think it is a very plainly written narrative of what dyslexia looks like. A lot of what is written in the book, I think there are other things going on. I think if this was a comment on the education system in the early 2000s, I would understand it more. It is a narrative about the education system we currently live in. Speaking from Canada's educational standpoint, and as a teacher, this is where I'm coming from. If your experience is different, that is valid. However, for a grade 6 student to not be flagged by any teacher prior to grade 6 that she has some sort of learning disability because she's smart, I think is,
Outdated?
yeah, outdated. I think there is a lot that needs to be fixed within our educational system. I think there's a lot that needs to be continued to be improved on. This is one that I feel is very strongly has been worked on. Our special education system is one that is something that is advocated for. And again, if your experience is different, I apologize that you had to experience that. I think this was written by somebody who had to experience that sort of system. And I think the teacher goes about the dyslexia diagnosis in the wrong way. I have a lot of thoughts, and they're from a teacher standpoint. Um, I do not have dyslexia. I would understand why you would, someone who has dyslexia would um, resonate with this book. I do not from an educational standpoint. So that was way too many thoughts even for this video. So there's a sneak peek on my thoughts. But yes, I read it. I would give it a 3 star. If you're looking for something that does a fantastic job at commenting on special education and the educational system, Wonder is a fantastic read. I would highly recommend it. I know Tricia has it somewhere.
I do. I
Can
don't think
she
it's
find it?
out. Like I think it's a row in, but I definitely have it.
Yeah.
It's somewhere on this white shelf.
Have you read Wonder?
I have not.
It is a fantastic read. I've done it as a novel study with students before, and I've read it myself. It is a wonderful read. Um, and it follows Augie, and I think, and it's been turned into a movie. I think that's a better read, to be honest. And again, your opinions are valid, your opinions are fair, your experiences are valid. This is where I stand. As I was reading Fish in a Tree, I all of a sudden remembered from the tombs of my mind, the book Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. I read this book in high school. Reading it as a 30-year-old, I don't understand why I read it in high school. I think it is a speak on how mentally ill people have been looked at and treated within our systems. It was written in a time when they were not treated well. I think, again, there's strong advocacy for mentally ill patients suffering from brain injuries, child development delay, things like that. I read it in one day and watched the movie in one day. I ended up giving it 3.75. A lot of it's outdated. It's an older book. I did not appreciate the abuse that Charlie had to suffer. I feel like he was used as a lab rat, as a lab experiment, and I don't appreciate that. I understand it's the premise, but I just don't think I don't like it. So yeah, there was some stuff I liked about the book. There was some stuff that I didn't. Very short read. It's only 218 pages, at least the version I read, but I saw there were a couple different editions, some that are over 300 pages. I'm wondering what happened to those pages.
I'm assuming large print.
I think so. Yeah, probably. So, anyway, 3.75 stars. So, using my wonderful Storygraph app, I averaged 4.39 stars for this month, which is a really good month in reading. I finished 10 books. That's 2,900 pages, and my average time to finish was 7 days. But yeah, that's all for me for my reading for June.
Um, Unlike Danielle, I have not put everything onto my story graph. So at the end of this, we're not going to have those amazing verbal statistics. I will, however, put my books onto Storygraph before this video comes up. So at the end, you will see her stats and my stats for this month, because what's more fun than a bunch of stats?
Right?
I started the month off with a Kelley Armstrong book. Surprising, I know. You've never heard this author from me before, and that's Disturbing the Dead. This is book 3 in her Rip Through Time series, so I'm not going to say a lot about it. It follows modern day homicide detective Mallory Atkinson in Victorian Scotland. I love the series and I really enjoy the world. I love the modern day perspective on the Victorian era, but in a way that makes sense. It's not a Victorian person speaking like a modern day person. It's a modern day person trying to enmesh herself into the Victorian era. Sometimes it works better than others, sometimes it doesn't. There are some characters that know she's from the past, most don't, or from the future, most don't. So it's really interesting to see how she makes herself seem like she fits in the time. As someone who's from the current day, it's interesting to see her thoughts, like wishing she had her cell phone so she could call someone or look something up really quickly on Google, or finding out what day or what year the alarm clock was created to make it easier to wake up in the morning. So that's the first book I read. I read it May 28th to June 1st, and I ended up giving it 5-star. My next book was a library book, so I've already returned it, and that's The Apprentice's Quest by Erin Hunter. When a new prophecy goes to the clans around the lake, a young medicine cat apprentice must go on a quest that might result in a change in the future for all clans. I've heard amazing things about the warrior books. This is one of them. And I've wanted to give it a shot because I do like a bunch of middle grade series. One of my favorite series of all time is a middle grade series. So I figured I'd give this one a shot. I enjoyed some things. Like, I thought it was cute, the terminology the cats had for some things, like 2 legs are humans, that kind of stuff. But it wasn't for me. I read it May 30th to June 2nd and ended up giving it 2-star. So unfortunately, this is not a series that I will continue on. The next book I finished was also a library book, and that is The Games Gods Play by Abigail Owen. This book is gorgeous. I have wanted a copy of this book for so long, but I could not justify getting another book just because it's pretty, when a couple of pretty books I've read lately just haven't cut it for me. So instead of just getting something for my shelves, I wanted something that I'd actually enjoy. So I borrowed it from the library to see if I want to get a copy for my own collection. Luckily, I do. Well, luckily for my collection, not my wallet. It is so pretty. Every 100 years, the Greek gods have a contest to see who will be the leader of the gods. They each choose a human representative for this competition, and no one but the gods know what the competition entails. For the first time ever, Hades has joined the competition. Lyra finds herself Hades' champion and must not only fight for Hades to win, but also for her own survival. So I ended up reading this June 1st to 2nd. I flew through it and I ended up giving it 5-star.
Yay.
It was great. During this time, I continued on with my Rip Through Time not reread, my Rip Through Time read. I reread the first 2 and read the 3rd and 4th books. The 4th book being Death at a Highland Wedding by Kelley Armstrong. As it's book 4, I'm not really going to say anything about it. I did read it June 1st to 4th, and this one I only gave 4.5. which is still really high, but it's low for this series.
Hmm.
My one note, and my sister, who also loves the series, has the same note. Shout out Vicky.
Hi, Vicky.
There is a trope in romance called a slow burn.
Mm. Oh.
This is molasses.
Oh.
So that's my only complaint. Like, you know that it's going to happen. And I understand that in Victorian times, it was a slow build up to romance.
Yeah.
I want more than holding hands. I'm 4 books in. I want
Oh.
more than holding hands.
Uh-oh.
But that's literally my only complaint in the entire series.
Okay.
The next book I finished was another library book, and that is Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. This book is the prequel to The Hate You Give, and it follows Star's father, Maverick, before she's born. It deals with Maverick's life as he fights his way through challenges and decides what he's going to do with his life moving forward. Um, I read The Hate You Give a number of years ago. I've spoken about it before on this channel, spoken about it off this channel with Danielle. I love The Hate You Give. I think it's a really important book and everybody should read it. I enjoyed being back in this world and seeing Star's parents being people before they were parents. However, The Hate You Give reigns supreme in my heart. I read Concrete Rose June 2nd to 5th, and I gave it 4 star. Still really good, but not at The Hate You Give level. The next book I actually have in front of me, this is also a library book, and I have to return it tomorrow. This is Spiral by Bal Khabra. Well, this book is technically the second book in the Off the Ice series. It can be read as a standalone. This book follows ballerina Sage Beaumont and hockey player Elias Westbrook as they're each trying to prove they belong at the top level of their careers. I'm a sucker for a book about dancers. If it's got a dancer, no matter what kind of dance, I'm gonna pick it up. I'm gonna read it. This one was cute, but not the best I've ever read. Also, not a lot of hockey for being a sports romance. I think it talked like 1 goal or like 2 goals, which even for hockey is not a lot, especially considering he's trying to prove he's at the top of his career.
Yeah.
So I ended up reading this June 8th and 9th, and I gave it 3 star.
Oh, yeah. We're going down.
Unfortunately, but we're about to go back up because the next 6 books I'm going to group together. I have the 5th book physically here because this is a library book. This is book 5 of the Glass Library series, and I read book 1, The Library of Crooked Lane, June 6th to 10th. Book 2, The Medici Manuscript, June 10th to 11th. The Untitled Books, book 3, June 11th to 12th. Book 4, The Dead Letter Delivery, June 13 to 15. Book 5, Secrets of the Lost Ledgers, June 15 to 16. And book 6, The Journal of 1,000 Years, June 16 to 17. I gave every single one of these books 5 stars. They are all by C.J. Archer. I stumbled upon the 5th book in the library, and that reminded me the series existed, reminded me that I had the first 4 as audiobooks and have not checked to see if the next ones have come out. So I ended up reading all of them. This one partially in person, partially as an audiobook. The rest of them as audiobooks. I enjoy the characters, both the new characters in this story and the characters that first made appearance in the Glass and Steel series, which is the generation before this, their story. I enjoyed the overarching mystery throughout this series. And if you have a chance to listen to the story as an audiobook, I highly recommend it, as Marian Hussey does an amazing job. She narrates this whole series and 12 of the 13 Glass and Steel books. So she does a fantastic job. The only one she doesn't narrate is the first one of the Glass and Steel series. There is a different audiobook, but she does an amazing job. The characters feel alive. They all have different voices, different personalities. It's great. The only thing of note, and this says more about me than the series, is that I expected the series to be longer. The Glass and Steel series has 13 books in it, so I stupidly went into this one expecting it to be that long. When I first picked this series up, only the first two books were out or something like that, like two or three. So I expected to like be sticking along for years. So when I finished the sixth book, I was a little more than halfway through the sixth book, and I was like, oh, things are really starting to wrap up. I don't know where it's going to go from here. And then it ended, and I'm like, but everything's wrapped up. What happened? I actually went on to CJ Archer's website and pulled up the series and read the thrilling conclusion. I'm like, oh, yeah. So it was great. I really enjoyed my time in this world. I
Yeah.
just thought there would be more of it, which is great. Um,
Yeah.
I have to applaud CJ Archer for making such a gripping series that it made me want it to continue. She did not make it drag on, which is great. I know a lot of series tend to do that, especially if they know it's characters that people like. Um, we definitely have not read a book like that or a series like that for our book club where you just prolong the inevitable to make money. Personal opinion. But I found the series carried the plot perfectly throughout all six books. It didn't feel like one carried the weight more than the others. And I really enjoyed it. The next book I read was The Dead Cattail Assassins by P. Djeli Clark. Sorry if I butchered that name. This story follows Evine the Eviscerator, a resurrected assassin in the city of Tal Abizi. She must follow three unbreakable vows and see out her years of service as an undead assassin. But when a job comes up that risks her unbreakable vows, things go sideways. I found this to be really cute. The premise had a lot of promise, but I wish it was longer so that it could have been more in depth. It's a very short book. I read it June 9th to 10th just because I started it like late at night and finished it the next morning. And I ended up rating this 3 stars. Again, just because like the premise had so much promise, but it's so short, it felt a little lacking. The next book I finished was That Time I Got Drunk and Yeeted a Love Potion at a Werewolf by Kimberly Lemming. This is the second book in the Mead Mishap series, but it can be read as a standalone. Thank goodness, as I didn't realize this was a second book. I've seen it online a lot, and I thought it was a standalone. So when Danielle and I did a book outlet haul, which you will be seeing come July, I saw it for really cheap, and I'm like, it's not the book I typically read, but why not? This follows Human Brie, a cheesemaker whose mother was a great lover of puns, and the werewolf Felix. When Brie accidentally throws a love potion at Felix, they need to figure out how to circumvent the potion's effects before it either drives him mad or kills him. Overall, I thought the story was okay. I wish there was more plot as it seemed like an interesting premise. It just fell a little flat for me, and the smut wasn't super gripping for me. It was okay, but for the amount I read, it was just mediocre. I read this book June 10th to 11th, and I gave it 2.5 stars. The next book I finished was The Apothecary Diaries, Volume 1, the light novel. This is by writer Natsu Hyuga, illustrator Tuko Shino, and translator Kevin Steinbach. This story follows Mao Mao, a young woman raised by her apothecary father who is kidnapped and sold into servitude in the rear palace. As she doesn't want to earn her kidnappers more money than she's forced to, she pretends to be illiterate to remain in the lowest tier of workers. However, her extensive knowledge of medicine doesn't allow her to remain silent when the emperor's newborn children start dying from something preventable. All of this results in the palace eunuch Jinshi enlisting Mao Mao to be a lady in waiting for the emperor's favorite concubine and her poison taster. While Mao Mao just wants to do her 2 years of servitude before she's able to leave the rear palace, her quiet life is long gone. I fell in love with this anime when I watched it on Netflix. When I saw the light novel in the Kohl's near my place, I had to get it, and volumes 2 and 3. While I'm not done volume 2 yet, I'm loving getting to see the difference between the show and what the light novel focuses on, because they're the same story, but the emphasis changes slightly, very slightly between the two. I can't wait to see season 2 of the anime and possibly pick up the manga that started it all. The next couple of books I listened to on Audible, I listen to as audiobooks, so I don't have them physically in front of me. They will be on the screen somewhere. And that is the first 3 books in the Glass and Steel series by C.J. Archer, The Watchmaker's Daughter, The Mapmaker's Apprentice, and The Apothecary's Poison. The Watchmaker's Daughter I read June 18th to 19th, and I gave it 5 stars. The Mapmaker's Apprentice I read June 20th to 23rd and gave it 4 stars. And The Apothecary's Poison I read June 23rd to 25th and gave it 4.5 stars. These books follow the generation before the characters in the Glass Library books. India Steele and Matthew Glass find themselves in an unlikely alliance as they try to find the watchmaker that Matt met in America years ago. As the daughter of a watchmaker, India is uniquely qualified for the task, except no one in the Watchmakers Guild will talk to her. And Mr. Glass might not be the upstanding citizen that India needs him to be. After finishing the Glass Library series, like I mentioned earlier, I needed to reread the Glass and Steel books. So I'm currently at this point of the month when we're filming, I have finished the first 3 books. I have just started the 4th book that I might finish by the end of June, but that's not going to be included in this video. But just know that I will be continuing on in this series. The penultimate book that I finished this month is Under the Oak Tree, Volume 1 by Suji Kim. Lady Maximilian is the daughter of the powerful Duke Croiso, but has been shamed her whole life because of her stutter. Her father forced her to marry Sir Riften, a lowborn knight, and Duke Croiso's out from the war against a powerful dragon. When Sir Riften makes it home from the fight 3 years later, he brings Max home to fulfill her duties as his wife. Surprised that a war hero would want anything to do with her, Max does everything in her power to prove that Riften is making the right choice. I first came across the story a number of years ago as a webtoon. When I stumbled across this book in a bookstore, I wasn't positive it was the same story, but the art style on the front and the title seemed very familiar. So I picked it up hoping that it would be, and it was. This is only volume 1, so I do know the story slightly past this based on the webtoon. I have not finished the webtoon, so I don't know how it ends. I can't wait for volume 2 to come out, which is supposed to come out later this year, I believe. And it's gorgeous.
So pretty.
It is so pretty.
This was a book in a video that has not come out yet, but will be coming out, where I said this should be Tricia's next read, because she has had this on her shelf for quite some time.
Yeah.
I was right.
You're right. I loved it. I read this June 13th to 19th and gave it 4.5 stars.
Nice.
And the final book that I will be talking about today is This Is How You Lose the Time War by Max Gladstone and Amal El-Mohtar. This is a story told mostly through correspondences between 2 rival agents hell-bent on securing the best possible future for their warring factions. What began as a taunt has the potential of becoming something more, something that will change both the past and the future. This is not a long story, but it took me a while to read it, especially for its size. It doesn't look like it took me a while based on the dates that it took me, but like it took me more time to read this than it did for me to read this.
Oh.
I found the first half to be incredibly slow and hard to get into. I had to reread pages a couple of times to actually get what it was trying to get at, just because my brain wasn't latching onto it. Uh, in fact, when I was about 20 pages in, I told Danielle that if I rated this story less than a 4, I'd be giving it to her.
Yes, she
As
did do that.
I think she'll enjoy the story more than I did. Well, the second half pulled at my heartstrings, and I ended up loving the story, like really loving the story by the second half. As in, I read it at work at my desk during one of my breaks and just cried silently at one point. Like, I'm lucky no one came to see me because I was a mess. I loved the second half of this. I still think I'm going to be handing this book off to Danielle. It's written beautifully, but the writing style isn't one that I think I'll ever go back to.
Mm.
And for me, it's more important for a book to have a loving home with someone who will appreciate it way more than I will. So, as much as I did end up giving this book a 5 star because of the second half of it, it was really close to being like a 2 star read for me. And huge switch to go from 2 to 5. But I
Mm.
think, Danielle, you would appreciate this book more than I do.
Send it on over.
I read it June 20th to 24th, but it felt like I read it for months in the first half.
Eesh.
But that's me. That's me not being able to deal with like poetry writing,
Mm.
poetic, like
Yeah.
beautiful flowing phrases. They're not long phrases in this tiny book, but they're very beautifully written.
Hmm.
And when I'm used to reading a bunch of stupid things,
Yeah.
this is harder for my brain to latch onto.
Yeah.
So here you go, Danielle.
Thank you.
And that's it for me. Only
Woo!
21 books.
So, a wonderful reading month for us. We are now going to show you our stats for the month. So, pause to take a closer look at them right here.
Are you done?
We're going to keep talking. Pause
You
if you
can
need
keep
longer.
looking.
Yeah, you keep looking. So that is our June monthly reading wrap up. Stay tuned for what we read in July and August because we are going into the summer. We have quite a few fun things planned, maybe some trips. You'll have to wait and see. But as always, if you want, leave us a comment down below. What did you manage to read in the month of June? Thank you so much for all of your support. Check us out on all our socials. We got Instagram, we got TikTok, and we try and post there as much as we can. And as always, we'll see you in the next one. Bye!
Bye.